Hi guys. So the topic of discussion for today is, are calories important? I know this is something that people keep debating all the time. And there's like a lot of opinion, a lot of you know studies on both directions. So I just purely want to base this on my experience of dealing with people over the past two plus almost 3 years. So it's very hard to give a simple one line answer whether this is calories are important or not. But I'll just tell you one thing. Okay, I'll just explain in a better way. Like there are two popular schools of thought here. One is the calorie in, calorie out model. So the basic idea is that if you consume less calories as to what calories you're burning, you lose fat. Theoretically, it sounds perfect. You can't debate it. It's very scientific. But the problem there is your body is not what you call a closed system. It's an open system. So, so this law of thermodynamics cannot be squarely applied here. And another factor is that let's say for all practical purposes, let's assume it's a closed system and we think this idea works. Then again, the problem is that calories out is highly variable parameter. It's not something you can control easily. Yes, you can control workouts and you can burn some calories, but the major portion of your calorie intake, or rather, major portion of your calorie out, the calories you're burning, is through basal metabolic rate. That's like the non-exercise physical activities and all that. So these are not in your control. So when you cut down on the calories, you might feel a little colder. Your body is regulating the temperature to manage the calories burning away too fast, right? So that is where calories out, calorie in, calorie out theory doesn't work. And the biggest flaw with this idea is that like, the focus is on calories rather than what you're eating. It's absolutely stupid to assume that 4 calories or 100 calories from fats is the same as 100 calories from carbs or protein. So these have different effects on your body, hormonally, biochemically, and all that. So calories in, calories out in that sense doesn't make sense. Doesn't really make sense. But but we know that when you cut down on calories or when you cut down on food in a smart way, that is the key here. In a smart way, you lose weight, and you need to be really smart about this. Otherwise, you will just mess up your health. You will not lose fat. You will lose muscle. So the basic idea of decreasing your food intake is a sound one. That's my opinion. Now, the other school of thought is the carb insulin model. So, the idea there is that when like things that stimulate insulin is what leads to fat, like fat accumulation. So, if I consume a lot of carbs, then my insulin levels go up, and that promotes fat storage. Protein has a protein also stimulates insulin secretion, and carbs to almost null. So the idea here is that if you are consuming a lot of food, a lot of fat-rich food, as long as your carbs are low, you're not going to put on fat. That's the idea. And from my experience, I can tell you that this is not true. And I know the reason why. So the problem or the logic these people who are like proponents of this carb insulin model go for is that they say you don't have, when your insulin levels are low, you're not putting on fat. But the thing is, unless you are a type 1 diabetic, you always have some levels of insulin in your body. Type 1 diabetics don't. That's why they need external insulin. But normal folks like me and you, even if our levels are low, even if our levels are 2 or whatever, we always have that basal insulin levels. That's like our body's mechanism to keep us from, disintegrating essentially. So the pancreas always produces some amount of insulin, whether throughout the day, like that's their basal insulin level. So regardless of how little you are stimulating insulin through food, whatever the basal insulin is there is still enough to metabolize fat and store fats. So this is where I believe both the ideas should be combined together for a better approach, right? Focus on reducing your insulin secretion, focus on making the environment for your body to not put on fat, but at the same time the stimulus should also be such that it's not calorie excess. So take both these things into consideration. I'm not a proponent of counting and measuring food. So whether it is carbs, whether it is calories, I'm not the one who suggests, oh, take a scale and do this, do the metrics, and like leave the math at your study table. Don't bring it to your dining table. Like forget all this nonsense. Don't count carbs. Don't count calories. Like unless you are some sort of professional athlete or a diabetic, then these metrics become important. But for your normal person, why do you bother with such things? Just don't bother about these things. Don't count anything. Don't measure anything. Just be very sensible. Don't overeat. And the easiest way to do that would be to cut down on unnecessary processed food. Just focus on proteins. That will itself bring your satiety level to a point that is reasonable. If you want to still go further, then you need to bring down your calories through some smart mechanism. Suppose you ate say 5 6 eggs and another meal, and you are getting your you got lost a lot of weight, but your fat loss has stalled. What could be the reason? That yes, your metabolism has adapted. What could you do in this situation is that you can change, you can you can ramp up things a little bit. That's where things like fasting and cyclical ketosis, carb cycling, these are all ways to, like, get that metabolism rolling. You can increase your physical activity, you can change it up. So these are all ways to get that metabolism rolling. So instead of focusing on, say, carbs are the villain or calories are the villain, these are like bullshit, right? So focus on just eating real food. When you feel that your progress has not stalled, then you try something else. It might be in the form of decreasing food, it might be in the form of including some fasting, or it might be in the form of adding some new workout regimen. So do what it takes. Don't be focused on calories or carbs. That's not the right way. Like, I clearly believe that both these ideas have their flaws and these are not perfect. Anyone who's like, okay, this is a perfect thing, carbs are the villain, calories are the villain, both of you, I believe, you are like, you are just barking up the wrong tree. You haven't worked with enough people to know this. Like when you work with enough people, you know that like we have had cases where like the people are consuming very less carbs, very less calories. Like, you look at through either of these ways, either the calorie model or the carb model, you will understand that still the person's weight does not drop. That's human body we are talking about. So being dogmatic about all this and being this model, yeah, like, who cares, right? Who cares? Like, you, what is the reason? Like, why should you be married to a diet? Why should you be married to a diet? Like, why are you trying to be a proponent of this method is right or that method is right? It's like you are going out of your way to defending one technique as right and dismissing everything else as wrong. Like, you are being dogmatic, so that doesn't help anyone. So maintain common sense in this. Understand that there are flaws in this method and there are flaws in other method. Maybe the truth is somewhere down the middle. That's what I believe. Maybe the truth is something else which we haven't identified yet or we don't know yet. So always give that benefit of the doubt. Always leave that little bit of space for that error, and just eat real food. That's my advice. So if calories are what's working for you, by all means go full on with it. And if cutting down on carbs is working for you, go full on with it. And if at some point either of these techniques stop working, then you can try for alternatives. But if you are getting like, if you are too much attached to any of these techniques, then you won't even make that switch. You'll be just, okay, this worked for me, so like, yeah, you found benefit in one technique at one point. That doesn't mean that that's the ultimate thing for lifelong, right? It's a tool, you found it useful at a point. Yes, great. But you can try, you can go ahead with it. But if it stops working at a point, you should be enough smart to adapt. So I hope a lot of confusion has been cleared off through my little talk. So if you have any doubts, please don't hesitate to comment below. I'll be more than happy to answer in. Bye.